All right, welcome everybody. First on the agenda is more of an announcement that the Reef release candidate is coming soon. Sounds like we'll probably try to cut it next week. So I want to make sure that all of our bug fixes that have merged to master are at least staged for Reef so that we can get them into the RC for testing. I also want to make sure that we find a way to get some more testing around multi-site, since we don't have reliable multi-site tests. I sent an email to the dev list about that. And so maybe I see Shilpa on. Maybe we can schedule a meeting with Mark and see how to get those rolling.
Yeah, I think we will. I spoke to Mark and he said he will try to work on it. So yeah, we can set up a meeting separately with him. I don't think he's on today.
All right, great. Yeah, it looks like there are still a couple multi-site related PRs open against Reef. So we'll want to make sure that those get in.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for the help there. All right, anything else that you guys know isn't in Reef yet that is really important to get in?
Yeah, I have two fixes to the Kafka library that are causing crashes, and I would really like to get them in. I mean, those are open PRs, so I need them to be merged to main first, and then I'm gonna try to backport them to Reef.
Okay, what's the status on testing there?
So the crashes are not found in our testing, like in tautology. They're actually found separately by an upstream user and by downstream QE. So downstream QE verified that the crashes, the fixes are fixing the crashes. So I think they're good. I'm going to run them through tautology just to make sure I haven't broken anything. But other than that, I need a review, and I think that can go in.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy to approve. I see the simplify connection memory management one.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
The other one is there was one place where I was missing a lock. The other one actually is a potential rest condition. It wasn't the thing that it was causing the crash, but I think the other one also got approval from that. So the main thing and the other one's like one line of adding a mutex where it was missing. But the important one is the getting rid of the shared pointer. So that's like a little more complex PR. So that would need review.
Okay, I have approved it and added the needs QA tag.
Okay, I'll run that through QA.
All right, and the tracker issue has backport tags. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Yuval. Any other stuff that's not in Reef yet? All right, well, I'm excited. It'll be a really great release, especially with all the multi-site reshard stuff. All right, moving on in the agenda is Yuval about DB Store in Rook.
This was actually someone approaching me. They have a project where they need they're using S3 storage, and they want to have like a self-contained solution. It's an operator in Kubernetes or OpenShift, and they want to have a self-contained solution where the actual storage is provided as part of the solution. So I was proposing to use Rook, but Rook actually installed a full cluster, and this is a little heavyweight for what they need. So I was wondering if there are any. I mean, there have to be work on the Rook side to enable the RGW standalone node, but are there any reasons or problems that would prevent us from running DBStore there? So, and also, do we have like documentation or explanation of how exactly to set up DBStore, because the Rook operator will have to do all this setup?
So it depends on what they want to do. DBStore does not yet support everything.
So the use case, again, I know it doesn't support everything, but the use case is that they have an application that wants to use an S3 storage, and they want a way for like a way to demo or a way to install that like on a single node Kubernetes cluster, and just get the thing running. So, for example, if they install Rook with Ceph, then they need an extra disk, or they have all kind of other requirements. They need more CPU, more memory, and they want something simple they can just spin and show that it's working.
Right, but I mean, my point is, it depends on what the application is doing, right? If the application is doing just really, really simple S3 stuff, sure, it should be no problem. But if it's doing one of the things that DBStore doesn't do, it'll just fail.
Well, I don't know exactly what they're doing. We'll have to test it, but
We'll have to test it.
Well,
but
so discuss it in our one-on-one, right? I mean, what's interesting to me, what would be valuable to me is the framework for deploying it. It could be, maybe we should mark it as experimental, and maybe we still need to wait a few months to get there, or whatever. If we get to if we could agree on some point where we say it's MVP or something.
Right. So I'm definitely not arguing we shouldn't do it. Right. I think we probably should do it. I'm just saying that it may not work for their particular use case, depending on what their application does.
Oh, that's totally the case, and we don't want to create the impression that it does something it doesn't do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and that's fair. That's pretty. The point. I don't know if you mentioned it, but they're currently using Minio, these guys, right? I mean, and so that's a pretty complete system. And then we're not pretending right now that we have that.
Right.
Well,
so
the
how to use.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, what I'm trying to say is that if you want to demo something, if you want to demo your application, you're not going to do multi-site failovers. You're not going to do any of that. This is not part of any demo, right? So it doesn't matter that we don't support that.
Right, but I mean, there are like actual S3 operations that are not supported on DBStore, right? If you look at the S3 test, there's a whole set of fails on DBStore options.
Oh, okay. So
right. So it just depends on what actual things their app is doing, and they'll just need to test it and find out. And maybe they come back and say it all works except for this one thing, and that's impetus for us to fix that one thing, right?
Mm-hmm. I see.
So I don't know. As far as using DBStore, so there is a README in the DBStore driver directory.
Okay.
It's intended for running DBStore with vstart, and so part of the information on how to run DBStore is in fact in vstart itself. But between that README and vstart, there is the complete information you need, and it's not complicated. There's like a command line option and a few config options that need to be set, and that's it.
Okay.
I have a few outstanding changes to that README that I've been sort of building up as I've been using it, using DBStore to make it clearer for new people. I guess I can push that if that would help. But it's not complicated. It's really dead simple if you use vstart. But if you want to, use it outside of vstart, which people have started asking to do, then it's going to need a little bit more documentation. But it's not complicated.
So in Rook, of course, there's no vstart. So in Rook, like you just code in Golang all the steps. That's what the Rook operator does. It just codes the steps. So, but if the steps are clear in Bash and there's some README, then I guess it shouldn't be too difficult to. I mean, running like admin commands or setting config variables, all the mechanics exist for that, of course, in Rook because they do that all the time.
Right.
The only thing that might be an issue if there are like installation dependencies and stuff like that.
So you have to have the SQLite libraries. That's it. Like I said, there's like a couple of config options, things like where the DB is stored, and then a command line option to set the store to be DB store. And that's really it. The only caveat is right now, I do not believe you can run RGW admin commands at the same time as the RGW is running, because I don't think we allow multiple access to our SQLite database
I'm able to create users when the RGW is running.
when it's already running. Okay,
Yeah.
so that may have been fixed then.
Okay.
This is a conceptual question. Where does the DB actually live?
Where the config option says it lives.
Well, would it be in one of the pods or would it be somewhere else?
Oh, you would have to have storage mounted for it, I think, because in the pods the storage goes away. I mean, if they don't care about that, if it's literally purely for demos, then it could just be in the pod. But if they want that to persist across pod restarts, they'll have to mount some external storage in. But Kubernetes provides for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's great. So I kind of in the I pasted the feature request that I opened for Rook in the agenda, and if you have stuff to add there or comments or something, then feel free, and I'll take that to the discussion with the Rook team and see, because I mean it will require some work on their end, because for example now they have, I mean, the installation of the OSDs and all that stuff is mandatory. It's not optional, and they'll have to figure out how to do that. So there's some work to do on the Rook side, but I want to make sure that on our end, it's clear how to actually set up the RGW.
Right.
We still need one mon running, right?
No, you don't need anything.
Okay, turn that off in my local setup then.
Yeah, I have all my daemons set to 0 except for RGW.
Okay.
I don't think we'll even connect to the mon at all. Like, we won't get our config from it or anything, even if it's running.
There's a weird feature in the Beast front end where it'll try to fetch SSL keys from the mon config store.
Oh, right. If you have SSL enabled, I forgot about that. But for a demo, that probably isn't necessary.
Yeah, can we make it stop doing that?
I mean, we would need some other place to get them from, right?
Right. If you configure it to point directly at a file for the key and certificate, then it won't try to fetch them. You would just have to have a way to get those into the container if it's in Rook.
Right.
Yeah, this just feels like part of how the orchestration needs to work.
Of course, if the app and the RGW live in the same pod and there's no external access to the RGW, maybe you don't need SSL anyway.
Oh no, the RGW would have to be like, the RGW is in its own pod for sure.
Oh, it's in its own pod. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The app is external to the Rook system.
Turn the pod count up. Have we tested Rook with like 3 RGW? Well, no, I guess each RGW would be different because it has a different database.
Right.
It would have a different DB file pointing to it.
Yep. So if the DB file is internal to the pod, obviously that there's no problem at all. And if it's externally mounted storage, you just got to make sure it's separately externally mounted storage.
And you can't. Could you have more than one RGW that points to the same DB file?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think SQLite allows that.
Yeah. So then you're going to need to make sure the pod count and the configurations all can't be set to more than one.
No, you
Or
just
the-
need to have a different permanent storage mounted in each pod.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't Rook do like auto scaling to add more RGWs? And that assumes that they're serving the same
Oh,
data.
that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
within
Yep.
an object store, we would only be able to run one gateway.
Yeah, in the object store, that's the abstraction for the RGW. There's a config variable that says count, which is the number of RGWs actually running all under that same configuration. And yeah, Casey mentions the auto scaling stuff too. I don't know how that would factor in, but we'd have to turn that off too.
Yeah, that is a good point, that each RGW loaded will be different. They won't be serving the same data.
Sounds like we gave Yuval quite a bit to think about.
I guess if this is gonna get the green light from the Rook team, then we'll have to do some design thinking about how to reflect the limitations in design in Rook.
I mean, I think what the benefit, the neat thing about this is because it's a kind of a framework to deploy the standalone. And if we should also be thinking about, how the different, how standalone might evolve, right? We might want to do DB store because it exists now, and we have PODX files. We might want to explore that, making that available in the same framework.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be that hard though. I think that the object store just has some dependencies to make sure the other ones are running, or the other daemons are running, and we should be able to just turn those off, turn those checks off if they're not, or if we choose DB store.
Cool. Well, I think this is a great idea. I just want to make sure that we market it as experimental, though. I think it'll be a while before we're ready to fully support a DB store and promise backward compatibility. So just want to make sure that users aren't putting a bunch of important data in it that we can't support long term.
Could you repeat that, Casey? I'm sorry, I didn't miss part of that.
I was just pointing out that I don't think we really have a strategy for making backward compatible changes to the DB layer currently. And so I don't think that we can really promise to support this as anything but experimental and temporary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be the case until we're significantly further along.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we market this as experimental. That's all.
No, I get that. I kind of didn't hear the whole statement, but I think that's appropriate.
All right. Any other thoughts here? Anything else for the agenda? I see that Tom and Alex are here, and there's a new PR to fix the race condition with deleted objects. I started review on that. Anything else that you guys want to say about it?
No, thanks for reviewing.
Thanks for getting an implementation so quickly. This is a really clean way to fix this. It seems logically. I'm excited about it.
All right, a new topic about bucket notifications and multi-site. I assume this is about metadata sync supporting replication of the metadata.
Hi. Yeah, I added that. So I think there was an RFE. There is still an RFE where we would want to have notifications synced. And Yuval says that, okay, let me just share the tracker here. That we need system objects to be replicated for this to work. So I just wanted to understand how exactly is bucket notification, how exactly bucket notifications work with system objects and what needs to be done for it to be supported.
So bucket notification, they store all the information about the topics and the notifications in system objects. So topic is where to send notifications to, like the Kafka broker or MQP broker or something like that. So the information, the IP address, port, all kind of configuration and other things like that are stored in a system object holding this information. So this is the topic. And the notification, this is like the filter and the type of events you want to notify on and to which topic to send and from which bucket. This is another system object. I mean, it is related to the bucket, but only in the sense that it has the bucket name in its name. But other than that, it's just a system object where we store this information that ties the topic to a bucket. This is what we call I think we also call that a topic, but it's also a system object that we store. And all these objects, they're not synced between zones. So if I'm defining notification in one zone, they won't be effective in another zone.
Okay, I see. Yeah, but I don't really think we really ever discussed about supporting system objects. Casey, do you know, was there any plan?
Not specific to the thing that we call system objects, but metadata sync, I think, is the thing that we would want to replicate these. And it replicates metadata, which is usually in the metadata pool. This bucket notification stuff might live somewhere else, but that's probably okay. But to support metadata sync, we would have to implement all of the metadata interfaces that are a bit of a mess lately. But the last example implementation was the role stuff that Preetha did for STS. So we could start by looking at that PR. I can pull up
Okay.
the link.
Yeah, got it. Understood. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look on how we can add this. Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Yuval.
Sure.
Okay, I added a link to PR 43597 in the agenda.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Anything else to discuss here? Last call for topics.
Yuval?
Hello?
Do you want to discuss these things we're talking about?
Oh, I forgot about that. Sorry. Sorry, I apologize. Maybe we do that next week. I want to prepare something, so it's easier to explain and give the background.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, and Yuval, are you planning to do the tech talk today? About
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
but,
Let's plug that in and share a link in the agenda.
yeah, that should be like in half an hour.
I believe it's scheduled for 1 hour.
Yeah.
All right. I
Okay.
added a link to the Jitsi room. Yuval will be presenting on the Lua scripting code walkthrough there. So if you're interested, please show up.
Thanks.
And if that's it, we'll go ahead and call it here. Thanks, everybody.
See you.